But over time, I realized something painful. The more I said yes to other people, even if I really meant no. So if you've ever felt, I do so much for other people, I feel so drained and exhausted, and they don't do the same for me. Have you ever achieved something and the first instinct that you have is, okay, what's next? Or have you ever felt like you needed to be someone else to be liked, respected, and accepted? You turn around and you see all of these popular girls. They seem to get all of the guys, they seem to have power, and they get whatever they want. And then you look at yourself and say, why do I feel like I'm never enough? And how do I feel confident? Well, you are not broken, you're just conditioned. And today I want you and I to work together to change that once and for all. Not with the cheesy affirmations or the fake it till you make it hacks, but with something deeper and something that actually lasts. Hey, it's Drae, and on this channel, we are all about becoming better human beings. Our goal here is to help you feel heard, seen, and supported to become your best self, one human being at a time. If that resonates with you, consider liking this video and subscribing, and hit that notification bell so you don't ever miss a video. Let's get back to it. I remember being a quiet, timid version of myself, shy as what people would say, always scared of speaking. When I was younger, our family would have these pizza night Saturdays, and I remember my siblings and I would point at each other and say, you order the pizza, no, you order the pizza. Basically, being confident and speaking up for myself was just so foreign to me. Being the center of the attention was so uncomfortable, and I just felt so vulnerable, and it was just way more comfortable to stay in the shadows. I grew up in an Asian household where attention was something to be avoided. We were taught at a very young age to bend our backs for other people. Don't be loud, don't stand out, don't make people uncomfortable. The goal was to fit in, to blend in, to be softer, to be helpful, and basically invisible, to be selfless before selfish. This is the exact conditioning that made me want to be liked and accepted by people. But I realized that my lack of confidence was because I was fit in this small box, and I functioned from that narrative for such a long time. The thing is, a lot of people confuse confidence with cockiness, but they're not the same at all. In fact, truly confident people, they don't feel the need to tell everyone that they're confident. They just are. The people who overcompensate by telling everyone, I'm the most confident person in the world, show their deepest insecurities, because their constant need to say it out loud is not to convince other people, but to convince themselves. While I was doing my research, I found out that a lot of the confidence hacks online talk about an external transformation, like fixing your posture, maintaining eye contact, talking a certain way. And yes, I have to agree that those things help, but the truth is, when you build confidence from within, all those things come naturally. You don't have to force it, it just shows. I spent the last few weeks figuring out how to actually emit this type of energy, this energy of confidence, this real authentic presence that is not quiet, not self-sacrificing, and unapologetic. So let's talk about how you can build this type of presence, the kind that doesn't crumble whenever someone criticizes you, the one that needs that external validation from other people. Let's start from the inside. Chapter 1, know yourself fully. Here's the truth. You can't be confident in someone that you don't even know. For the longest time, I didn't know who I was. I knew what my parents wanted me to be. I know how to make my teachers proud. I knew how to show up in a way that made everyone else comfortable. But me? My actual voice? I didn't know what she sounded like. I talked about this idea of the inner voice in my other video, The Cheat Codes of Life, but essentially we were all born unique. No one in the past, present, and future will ever have the same experiences as you and I have. But have you ever felt like your parents told you to be a doctor when you're just naturally more creative? Or when you scroll on social media and suddenly you feel like you're never enough? Well, that is your inner voice being dampened by social media, by all of this external noise of people putting their life's mission on you and blocking out your own inner voice. And it took such a long time for me to understand that and finally hear that voice inside. I remember asking myself these deep questions. What do I actually want to do? And when I tried journaling, I was literally just staring at the same page for 10 minutes. I couldn't think of anything. And this isn't because I didn't like anything. It's just for years, I prioritized other people's moods, preferences, and needs before my own. And my needs weren't even on that list. The people pleasing, the fear of disappointment, it was all automatic for me at this point. Well, we have to change this internal default to change the physical manifestation in our lives. Before you make a decision or say something, pause and really think about it. Focus on your energy and the intention that you have with this. Am I excited about this, or I'm just scared of disappointing someone? Do I really have the capacity for this? And if you are in a stage of trying to get to know yourself a little bit better, here are a couple more questions that you can start journaling about. What makes me feel good? What drains me? money? What do I value in a friend? What does my dream life actually look like? Not the life that gets applause, but the life that feels like me. Do I want to do this because it feels right or because I'm scared that they would leave me? That's how the foundation gets built. No one was born in this world confident. Confidence is a skill that you have to build up. And it starts by knowing what you want and knowing yourself the best. And this takes a lot of effort and reprogramming because 90% of your thoughts and beliefs are from societal expectations, from past experiences that you absorbed during your childhood. Our brain likes to automate everything. Remember that time when you were learning how to drive and it took you so much mental effort to drive, and then at some point it just became brainless? Well, that automation can work for you or against you. So I really want you guys to shift your perspective here. Instead of asking yourself, oh, what products do I use to feel more confident? How do I fix my posture? How do I fix my eye contact? Or how do I fix how I properly communicate? These are all external transformations, but I want you guys to dig deeper because how you act stems from your belief. For you to truly heal, you don't just trim the weeds, you take out the weeds from its roots. So the real question you have to ask yourself here is, what belief was planted in me that's stemming all of these unconfident traits? Do I make myself feel small in a room full of strangers because I feel like I have nothing good to say? The voice that you hear in your head of saying that you're too emotional, you're too loud, where does it come from? Because I can trace mine at an early memory in my childhood where I was praised because I was small. I was praised because I was an obedient and helpful child, that I just held my tongue and I followed every instruction that was on my way. I somehow absorbed that experience and translated it into, okay, if we make ourselves small, we will be safe. And that story ran on autopilot for years. Until one day I was like, wait, is that true? Or did I just accept that and never question it? And the thing is, most of the beliefs that we have of ourselves and the world was picked up before you even had the tools to reject it. It was planted in you during your childhood. So if you are struggling with thoughts like, oh, I'm never good enough, I'm not confident, I'm just not that girl, I want you to pause. Where did this belief come from? Was it your classmates? Was it your social circle? Was it your parents? Was it social media? Because we were all born in this world as blank slate babies. None of these people get the right to define you. And the good news is it doesn't have to stay that way, because if these beliefs were learned, it can be unlearned. Just know that every time you're challenging this default thinking, you're starting up a new pathway in your brain, that there's a new way to handle these things. It's going to take time, but over time it's going to be automatic. You don't have to carry someone else's version of you any longer. So every time you are in a social setting and that familiar fear just comes back up, oh my gosh, like what if I say something stupid? I want you to challenge that thought and lean into that discomfort. That's the only way that this fear will lose its power. Our brains are wired to keep us in a space of familiar. But if that familiar means keeping yourself small, then doing nothing about it just reinforces that idea because you don't know any better. Sometimes the only way forward is to walk out of this room into the next one where it feels a little unfamiliar and slightly terrifying, for the chance to prove to yourself that all your fears are not true. Which leads us to the next point. Chapter 2. Build a portfolio of proof. If you've ever told yourself, oh, I'm not confident, that's not a fact, you just lack proof. So here's what you're going to do. I want you guys to embody a lawyer and a jury. We need to build a case against our fears and build enough evidence to prove that we are more than capable. Before you reach a verdict, you have to gather enough evidence to disprove all of your fears. And that's how we're going to get rid of this conditioning. I remember my biggest fear is to show up online, basically create this type of video, talk about my experiences, be vulnerable on the internet, because I was convinced that people would laugh at me, would criticize me, would judge me. And so I stayed in that room of fear for the longest time. So what did I do to disprove that? Well, I did the scariest thing. I filmed the dang video. I talked about my experience with as much authenticity and I hit publish. Was it uncomfortable? Definitely. It gave me tangible proof that the one thing I was scared about wasn't even real. That fear of judgment and criticism did not happen. In fact, it was the exact opposite, because I received comments like this. By the way, I absolutely love reading all of your comments. But basically, this evidence just shows you that your fear is not true at all, and it's just all in your head. So don't rob yourself of this opportunity to gather this evidence for yourself that you are more than capable and that your fears are just imaginary and that your fears have no power. And we're so easy to say what if in a negative sense. Oh, what if people criticize me? What if I get judged? But what if it actually turns out better than what you hoped for? What if it actually works for you? What if people actually love you? What if people wanted to hear your message? And if you're here still saying, why am I not confident? I always feel sad. I feel lonely. Well, let me ask you a question. When was the last time you did something challenging and pushed yourself outside your comfort zone? Because if you haven't done that, then it makes sense that you feel like this. And I know this is tough love, but you really need to hear this message. Because if you stayed in your safe zone, in this room full of fear, then you haven't given yourself the opportunity to gather that evidence that you are more than capable. Because if you really put action into this, you show up even if it's hard. You wake up to go to the gym even if you're tired. You do the work even if you're stressed. This is all evidence. And over time, these small wins will grow louder and louder and become even more real than your doubts. Confidence doesn't mean that you don't feel fear. You just stop letting fear make your decisions. And remember, it doesn't matter how small the action is, what matters is you did it. Chapter 3. You have to be selfish in order to be selfless. Let me ask you something. When was the last time that you said yes even if you really wanted to say no? How many times have you gone along with something not because you're excited, but because you're scared of disappointing people? And I used to do this all the time. Whether it's agreeing to dinner plans if I don't even have enough energy for myself, or I would still pour and help other people even if I was just so burnt out. Or I would just silently keep quiet and smiling through everything even if it makes me uncomfortable. I do it because that's what I was taught. I was taught to be agreeable, to be pleasant. But over time, I realized something painful. The more I said yes to other people, even if I really meant no, meant that I was saying no to myself. We are praised to be selfless, but do you know what that subconsciously tells you? That you live for other people, that you prioritize other people's needs before yourself. And this is why you have low confidence, because at every opportunity to show up, you show up for other people first. Well, I'm here to tell you that you are worth the effort. You deserve the energy that you are giving other people. Because if you're doing that for others, why can't you do that for yourself? I realize it's a lot harder to put someone down when you're talking to them face to face, so talk to yourself in the mirror. I know that sounds a little odd, but when I started apologizing to myself in the mirror by calling myself ugly or stupid, I realized the consequences of my action. You don't really get to see your own face, so by looking at the mirror, you're reminded that you are talking to a human person, and that human person is you. I would never call my friends ugly, so why is it so easy to call yourself ugly? You need to be selfish before you could be selfless. We were taught that being selfless is actually a good thing, but the definition of selfless is being concerned with the needs and wishes of others than with one's own. If that's the case, I don't want to be selfless, because who's going to take care of me? Who's going to take care of you? You need to fill in your own tank before you start pouring into other people. So if you've ever felt, I do so much for other people, I feel so drained and exhausted, and they don't do the same for me, well, it makes sense because you're subconsciously telling yourself that you're not even worth an ounce of your own energy. Truth is, not everyone deserves your energy. And if you are selfish, then you have a limited amount of energy that you can reserve for the people who actually care about you. Now you get to be selective with the energy and time that you put into your relationships, and not just willy-nilly give everyone your time of day. And part of prioritizing yourself is setting healthy boundaries. Remember that boundaries are not mean, they're essential. I used to think that boundaries were rude, that saying no was selfish, or standing up for myself, I'm being too difficult. But that's a feeling that you get if you're taught to prioritize peace above anything else. And in so many Asian households, you were taught that love equals sacrifice, that to be a good daughter, a good partner, a good daughter-in-law, you have to give until there's nothing left. And when I first started setting that boundary, I just felt so guilty for having them. But let me tell you one thing that really changed it for me. Boundary is not a wall, it's a door. And you get to decide who walks through. The moment I determined my boundaries and really set my non-negotiables, people started respecting me more and not less. I saw this quote that I think you'd find helpful. Overplaying your role doesn't make people appreciate you more. It makes them value your time and energy a lot less. People pleasing is a race to the bottom. People will appreciate you for giving them a drop of water, but take you for granted for giving them the entire ocean. The concept of the forbidden fruit effect actually applies to this. The more rare something is, the more desirable it becomes. So if you are very picky with the time and energy that you put into people, then it becomes a little bit more rare. Remember that people take cues from you. If you are just willingly giving your time of day and energy to everyone, they feel that. And if you treat yourself as an afterthought, they will also treat you like that. But if you show up knowing how important your time of day is and your energy, they'll either rise up to meet that standard or they're gonna get intimidated and leave. But either way, your peace wins. Which leads us to the next point. Chapter 4. Protect your energy like your life depends on it. This next part is going to be uncomfortable but necessary. You might be addicted to chaos and you just don't know it, because I know I was. Because when you grew up in an environment where you're constantly on edge, tiptoeing on other people's moods and emotions, and living in such a chaotic environment, calm can feel a little weird. I remember the first time that I felt that quiet and silence, where I actually moved out, where I was prioritizing my mental health and really evaluating my relationships. I felt this sense of emptiness. It was kind of lonely. Like I was so used to the chaos and the drama that it just felt so weird not having that in my life. But this is actually not a negative thing. In fact, you're experiencing safety for the first time. And there's a difference between being lonely and choosing solitude. Solitude comes from intentionality. You intentionally put yourself in a space where you're just by yourself. But loneliness comes from a fear of being alone. While they look the same, the intention behind them is completely different, and how it affects you will also be different. So if you have been running around all of your life putting out fires, then I want to tell you this. Peace is not boring. Peace is not laziness. The feeling of peace is the baseline that you need to understand so you can see what situation and when someone disrupts your peace. And remember, confidence doesn't live in chaos. It lives in clarity and peace. When you're fully immersed in calm and peace, you start to notice every single thing. Just imagine yourself sitting in a bath where everything is just serene. When there's tiny droplets in the water, you start to see those ripple. And even the smallest drops can feel big because it disrupts the peace. So through this calmness, this is how you're going to know if someone is actually draining you and when it's time to actually remove yourself. I'll give you an example. There was a time in my life where I felt just constantly exhausted and I thought I was just burnt out or maybe I wasn't sleeping well. But I realized it's actually the people that were in my life. There are some people that you just feel a little bit more, emotionally constipated. That's a funny word, but you get what I mean. Just more uptight and you feel like you can't be yourself. But then there are people that just make you feel like you can just exhale and you can just breathe and you just feel so comfortable around. Be aware of how those relationships affect your peace, how that actually affects your mood, your energy. Because not everyone deserves your energy and your time. Even if they're nice, even if you guys have history, even if they're kind of popular. So really start asking yourself, do I feel more alive after I see them? Do I have to put on a face or try too hard? Do they support who I'm becoming or taking away from that? If the answer does not support growth, then walk away. Because protecting your energy is not rude. It's mature and it's self-respect. Don't be afraid of outgrowing other people and don't be afraid of choosing solitude over noise. The more you honor your space, the more you attract the right people in your life. And the more confident you're going to move through life. Because now you're not chasing a seat at someone else's table. You've built your own table and now you get to choose who gets to sit with you. Chapter 5, dealing with the fear of being seen. And I just have to say, Asians are allergic to attention. Growing up in an Asian household, I was shaped with the idea of saving face. In many Asian communities, the collective is celebrated more than individuality, unlike Western cultures like America, where independence and self-expression is celebrated. Saving face isn't about you anymore. It's about protecting the honor of the entire family. That means that whatever action that you take, you have to take into consideration how other people also perceive your family members. So for me, it just put on a lot more pressure on myself and how I appear to other people because it's not just me anymore, it's also about my family. And so that makes my fear of being seen a lot more intense. You don't want to speak up because you don't want to lose face. You don't want to answer questions in class because you don't want to be that type of student. You don't want to share your dreams and accomplishments because you're worried that people think you're bragging. We were conditioned to reject ourselves. That way no one can actually reject us. But what if I told you that embarrassment only exists if you agree with the critic in your head? Feeling embarrassed is actually something that we can opt out of. Let's say I trip on a sidewalk. Well, I have two choices here. The first one is to say, oh my God, I'm so stupid, and let that really affect my self-worth and plummet over one small thing. Or I can just shake it off and say, oh, that happened, ha ha ha. Same event, different interpretation, different power. So I did a little bit more research on why embarrassment is a thing, and I realized that embarrassment is only a gap between how you want to be perceived and how you believe that you are perceived. So let's break that down. Have you ever ruminated over, for example, last night's party and you're like, oh my gosh, did I really say that? And then you overemphasize what other people think of you when that's not really what happened. So you want to be presented a certain way, you want to appear confident, but then you think about that one stupid thing that you said and now you feel like people think you're weird. Well, that is essentially what I mean by the feeling of embarrassment. It's a gap between how you want to be perceived and how you believe other people are perceiving you. But There's a phenomenon called the spotlight effect. Basically, we overestimate how much people are actually paying attention to us when they're also hyper-focused with their own concerns and problems. So remember, you're probably overestimating the situation, and that's probably not what happened last night, and you're just overthinking it. But even if they are putting their opinions on you, well, they don't pay your bills or build your dreams. And if they're not truly your people, why give their opinion the same weight as someone who genuinely cares about you? Isn't that a disrespect to people who are actually loyal to you? So if you get internet trolls and people saying that you're so cringe, just know that it is less about you and more about them. It is not a spotlight of your own flaws, but actually a reflection of their own fears. What they're really trying to tell you is that what you did, I could never do. Because deep down, they're still stuck in their own fear of being judged. So when you're recalling any sort of interaction, or you're the type of person who think about, oh yeah, I did this last night and it's so cringe, always end that memory with a good note. Just know that our memory is actually very faulty. Maybe you dance a little awkwardly and you're thinking about it, you're like starting to cringe, but think about how it was actually accepted. Maybe some people actually felt comfortable because you were dancing like that and you made people happy. Focus on that instead of saying, oh, you're so cringe. Chapter 6, learning to love yourself even in your worst days. Let's be real. Loving yourself when everything is smooth and perfect is so easy, but can you have the same love and compassion when you miss a deadline, when you feel like you made a mistake, when you have acne on your face? Because that's when it truly matters. One thing I realized is I tied a lot of my self-worth and confidence with the achievement that I have with my business. Like if I just worked hard enough, if I fix my hair, if I look a little bit beautiful, if I lost a little bit weight, if, then I'll finally be worthy. That was the narrative I set for myself for the longest time. But what that did to me was just trap me in a box that I have to actually do things for me to actually be worthy. Just know that you don't have to prove to yourself anything to be worthy. You are just worthy as you are. Everything else is bonus points. Functioning from a place where you have to be your polished self to be worthy will just send you down a bad rabbit hole. Just like that memory, you have to end on a positive note. If you do end up failing at something, well, remind yourself and be grateful for what you have. Well, that doesn't mean I'm going to die, right? A mistake is a mistake, but I will still live. I still have someone who loves me. I have my pet that I can cuddle with. Really focus on gratefulness. Be careful with how you're criticizing yourself. I mean, would you say that to someone that you love? Would you easily criticize them if they make a mistake, or would you just forgive them? Would you talk about it with them? Give yourself the same grace that you're going to give other people. Real self-love isn't just loving yourself because you look pretty, or you have new products, or you finally feel a sense of accomplishment. Real self-love comes from loving yourself whether you are in a good or a bad place. And I want you guys to do something with me. I want you guys to close your eyes and picture your 6-year-old self, full of possibility, full of dreams. And now imagine that little version of you looking at where you are right now, seeing you. Would they be disappointed or would they be amazed? Because I think if you were to think about this in the outside perspective, this little kid will probably be so in awe with everything that you've accomplished and how far you've come in your journey. They wouldn't be nitpicking at your flaws. They'd be in awe. Oh my gosh, this is where we end up. Oh my gosh, you got married. Oh my gosh, you graduated from college already. We get so caught up on everything that we put on ourselves and what we haven't achieved when we have to be grateful with what we've already done. And if you have all your limbs intact, you are healthy as a horse, and you have someone that loves you and you love them back, then you are already blessed. And if you are here still trying, still healing, still going on this journey of life, then that deserves a lot of credit. So next time that you feel that you're behind, you're not confident, you're not enough, I want you to look back at how far you've come, because I know that your little self will be so damn proud. I used to think that confidence is something that you were born with, but it's not. Confidence is a skill that you have to build, and it takes a lot of conscious creation to do, to recondition any sort of belief that was planted to you, to catch your thoughts and reassess and turn into a positive note. But the secret to being confident is already inside of you. You just need to learn how to listen to your own inner voice. And every time you tune into her, you protect your energy, you say no because you prioritize yourself. That's how you build real confidence. Not louder, not perfect, just yours. And if no one has told you lately, I just want to say I'm so proud of you for doing the work, for showing up, for healing, and for loving yourself even if it's hard. You are not too much. You are not feeling behind. You are not broken. You're just getting started. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I need your guys' help to help me push this message to anyone who needs to hear it. So if you found this helpful, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't ever miss a video. And don't forget to leave a comment because I reply to every single one. And follow us here on our social media. This is our Instagram at Better Human Beings. I've been trying my best to show up every day on there. I would love for you guys to join me in this journey, and stay tuned to see what we've been cooking up for the next few weeks. It's super exciting. Again, our goal here is to make you feel seen, supported, and heard to become your best self, one human being at a time. Thank you again for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.